welcome to the second review of the evening. Up this time is Thy Sword. And no, we're not going to turn that into a comedy routine. We will spare you that particular brand of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Thy Sword is another retro-styled platformer. This one has a specific aim. It is aiming for games of the Amiga. Um,
Or,
and
like the Amiga if it was an arcade machine.
Right. But I mean, they specifically credited the. They said "Long live the Amiga" in the credits.
Mm-hmm.
Mind
So yeah,
you,
the graphics have a decent amount of color depth, but very, very low resolution.
yeah, mind you, if this were an actual Amiga game, this would be probably denigrated because, in terms of design, even in terms of graphical fidelity, the Amiga was capable of more. Like, at least in appearance. I'm sure this game is actually more technologically excruciating than an actual Amiga game, since it's a modern game. But in terms of what the Amiga could do, you look at Shadow of the Beast versus a game like this, and Shadow of the Beast would just blow it away. This is in terms of level design, in terms of actual structure, this is more like a Commodore 64 or a ZX Spectrum game.
Just better color.
Yeah, obviously better color and better graphics.
Also, it has this weird little thing on the UI where at the bottom it has your health and your money and your sword and your number of arrows, but also whenever you do a thing that's significant, like either clear a stage or die and continue, it does a friggin' reminds me of the pinball machine LED displays.
Right. Anyway, getting back to the level design, they're all one-room affairs. And that's a hallmark of 8-bit jump and runs from the 8-bit computers.
Mm-hmm.
They really didn't have scrolling down, so better to have the one room. Also, the music. The music is imitating SID chip, which is much more a hallmark of the Commodore 64. Not sure if the Amiga even had a SID chip. But yeah, the music is invoking, once again, Commodore.
Mm-hmm.
But
again, the graphics are obviously way better than Commodore 64 because Commodore 64 couldn't do multiple color sprites.
No, this is well beyond what a Commodore 64 could do. Like I said, the graphics are definitely Amiga, even if the stylings are more Commodore 64 based. And though in keeping in with modern times, it's not just an arcade hack and slash platform game. Oh no, it's one of those.
It's a procedurally generated one.
Yeah, with roguelike elements. Because of course it is. I'm not here to denigrate that style. It's just roguelikes are quite popular.
Yeah, the thing that is randomized mostly is the contents of each individual screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether there is a crow with a key and a treasure chest, which is the best way to get money, pretty much, because the treasure chest just explodes in money if you pick up the key.
Yeah. Also worth being said that this game plays a lot better than one of these would have in the 80s.
Yeah, the controls, some of the maneuvers you have are a little on the awkward side. The power attack that you get that lets you do significantly more damage and get more treasure for killing a foe with it, but requires a significant amount of both time and space wind-up.
Right.
You travel a body length and a half forward, and it takes half a second.
Yeah, but I'm talking about more the actual movement and
right. That's what I was gonna say. So the maneuvers like that and the setup it has for shooting arrows are a little bit awkward, but the controls are very fluid.
Yeah, which is a bit odd because if you saw a game like this back in the 80s, you'd assume it'd be stiff as shit, and
Yeah,
not
and
just
it's not.
yeah, not just like on a Commodore 64 or anything, but even an arcade, like Roston's a good example. You know, Roston isn't, you know, it's a decent game, but it's pretty fucking stiff. I always thought it played stiff, even back in the day.
Hmm.
You know, and like I said, this game plays a lot smoother, which is fine
Yeah,
by
you
me.
can like you can attack on ladders and all that shit.
Yeah, so there's a lot of modern.
You can even jump down through like practically any platform.
Yes. So there's quite a bit of modern game development going on here, or at least you know something not that you wouldn't have done back in the day, either because it wasn't technologically possible or it just wasn't the style at the time.
The game also has a co-op mode, and if
Yeah.
you start off co-op, you can also go into a separate room than the start of the adventure screen to fight each other for fun, with significantly more plentiful power-ups than the actual game has.
Right. And the game had, well, you start off with two character classes. You have the Barbarian, who hits harder, has more hit points, but is slower and most distressingly does not start with a bow.
Yeah, the
Um,
Barbarian starts with a broadsword, I think, that does
mhm.
2 damage, or at least 1 more than normal.
Yes.
And has, I think, 7 health. The Valkyrie starts off with a bow, but only a short sword that only does 1 damage or whatever,
Right.
and has 5 health. However, as I alluded to earlier, starting off with a bow is really useful because it's the ravens with the keys to the treasure chests fly away if you like touch that, if you get close to them. So you either have to time a special attack really well, or otherwise um, hit them with a bow. And hitting them with a bow is a lot easier.
Yes. Now, mind you, because it's a bow and arrow, you do have a limited amount of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
You will start off, and your maximum amounts of arrows is 10, which is plenty if you like use them for crow hunting.
Yeah, and you
Like
can get more by killing the blue goblins what have bows, or other enemies that have bows.
yeah. I mean, wouldn't really recommend using your bow to take down an enemy all at once because that'll
Yeah, it does
especially with
not do much damage, even compared to the short sword.
sword. Yeah. Um, but and to these are the things you start off with, but there is a shopkeep in between levels,
Mm-hmm.
and you can upgrade your character in various ways. That includes weapons.
So yeah, the flow of the game generally is you start off in the Ember Woods as the first stage. You go through 5 stages of that, then a nighttime stage at the end of each section that has skeletons that are significantly more annoying to fight than the goblins and rats, other things, because they actually have shields and yeah, they're a pain. And then you get a choice of new areas, and then you get a choice of new areas to go to, and as you're making that, after, I forget if it's before or after, but you get to go. No, you go to a camp for the night, and that's where you can buy new equipment or heals or other things.
You can also buy like amulets that'll give you more health or will make you immune to poison.
Yeah, power-ups of various
yeah.
types.
Yeah, mind you, or immune to spikes. Like you'll definitely want the poison because poison's really annoying in this game. Like if you get poisoned, your health
Take
will
more damage, right?
no, your health will gradually decline down to 1 bar, and there didn't seem to be a way to mitigate that.
Mm-hmm.
It just, it would be a thing that would happen. And I think this is a good time to talk about how death works in the game, because that's the overriding factor between the 3 difficulty levels.
Mm-hmm. So the hardest difficulty is basically true roguelike mode, where you have your health, and then you can heal during the stages from health potions or whatever, but if you die, your progress is ended. There's also the second difficulty starts you off with 3 lives, which is the one they call like normal, which is a little bit better. And then on what they call apprentice, you can always put in another coin after you die. However, when you die, you still get sent back to the beginning of the section you were on, of the area.
Unless you're facing off against the boss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like
the bosses are like their own area, sort of.
Yeah. But yeah, if you die at a boss, you'll start off at a boss.
Mm-hmm. But like if you die in Emberwood 4, you get sent back to Emberwood 1.
And the bosses in this game, they're honestly on the easy side, but I think that's because of the higher difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, you say the bosses are easy, but something's got to not be too bad because the fucking hobgoblins and ogres are a pain in the ass.
Right. I'm not saying that they're not without challenge, but the evil overlord, for example, is is really easy for a final boss. And I'll grant you that, like, sometimes the final boss will be not the hardest challenge, but he does things like really telegraph his attacks and have really predictable patterns.
Well, I think most things in this game telegraph their attacks pretty well. The thing is that you do not have, because even the regular attacks have a little bit of windup, you don't have the fastest ability to respond to those things, so they have to be somewhat telegraphed to give you a chance to avoid them.
I'm like, I get that, but even under those circumstances, he was telegraphing some shit pretty hard there.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like, like I said, it's still a challenge, but honestly, like he was a bit of a damage sponge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was the challenge of tedium, not actual difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I said, I think that's in accordance with the fact that, the play style can be a lot, you might have only 3 credits or 1 credit. So,
right, they don't want to make it impossible to do that way.
You have to take it from somewhere. I was fine playing on, on Apprentice mode because that's the actual arcade experience.
Yeah, well, it's the arcade experience if you come to the arcade with enough coins.
Right, but my point is, you would never encounter an arcade game that had limited credits. Like,
just limited lives per credit.
Yes, maybe a limited area. Like, I do remember a couple of games that if you got to the end and died, then you couldn't continue. But that's about the closest. It's like limited continues is ironic. It's something that they attribute to the arcade experience, but no, that's actually more console because because
early arcade games that were adapted for consoles didn't quite know what to do when the player in an arcade would have been expected to further monetize the game cabinets.
Right. It's because put simply, arcade cabinets want your quarters, so of course they're not going to limit continues. The economy wasn't there for it. But but the point of the matter is that there are options for how hard you want this game to be. Or if you want to say unlock all of the characters, you do get 2 characters to start with, but you will unlock both the paladin and the rogue.
And the way that this works is that at some point when playing through the game, you will see some dude run across the bottom of the screen. And the first time this happened to me, it was some thief guy that I stabbed a bunch and got a shit ton of money. But the second time, it was a guy who, when I went up to him and tried to stab him, I talked to him and he said, "Hi, I'm the rogue. We need heroes to join the cause like you guys are." And then it said I unlocked him. But then I died, and I haven't started over since then, so I don't know if I actually got to keep it, so I hope I did.
Yeah.
I believe that's the intention, is that, like, as with a roguelite type thing, you unlock the guy, and then you get to keep him.
Fair enough. And the paladin is in an optional level. You got to beat all the enemies. Well, actually, you don't have to beat the enemies, but you have to unlock him from a cage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Which area is that in?
Like towards the end.
Ah, okay. I probably didn't even get that far. I died a lot. Like, I put a decent amount of time into this game, but I didn't get that far.
I'm not much better, Galax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is interesting that this game does have basically branching progression. You can go to different areas, and the different areas have different, like, enemy types and stuff.
Well, yeah, a lot of the branching paths will contain the gems that you're supposed to collect. And that's where the bosses are. Not all the time, but they are there. And, provided that you're not taking on the harder difficulties, a run of questing will run you like about 2 hours, maybe 3, depending
that's
on.
That's not good.
Hmm.
Hang on, I have a glitch to report in a moment.
Oh.
I need to see what happens if I get hit. Okay.
Oh.
So I died and got a health potion at the same time, and I was locked in place until something hit me.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
Not game breaking, just worthy of note.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a bit of replay value here.
You can always play it again to use a different character or take a different route.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the kind of game that I'd say that you'd run through and then run through again in succession. Like, it's more you'd pick it up, play it, and then move on and come back to it in like a couple of days kind of deal. But yeah, this is a really solid action platforming title. And the console versions were converted by Radolikia Games, but the original developer, European dev called Game Phase, and
who has a pretty cool logo.
Yes, and we have mentioned many a time about the typical Radolikia game, even though that they might not necessarily have developed. They have a type. And, guess what? This is going to come up again next week. I'll tell you what.
I found this game had a little bit more depth than a lot of the ones that they've had before, so that's nice.
It's not just got more depth, it's got more ambition to it. Once again, like the retro style. Like, the retro style is actually aiming for an actual retro style instead of some nondescript hodgepodge. And...
Instead of retro means we don't have to spend as much money on character designs.
Right. And like the combat, there's actual flow to the combat and such. It's simple combat, but it's not, it's not dull. Like, that's a thing that I've had a problem with a lot of Radolikia games, where it's simple to the point of mind-numbingness. And this game is a couple of cuts above that, at the very least. Mm-hmm. And, okay, so pricing. Once again, since we have different publishers, we have different prices on different storefronts. That is to say, it's not a big difference. Mind you, the game is on sale on Steam right now. It's half off. But under normal circumstances, the game on Steam clocks in at $8.99. Whereas on the consoles, it's $9.99. So it's also a bit more expensive than your typical Radolikia game. Also worth noting, you can get the soundtrack for $1.99. No bundle option, though. a bit strange there. I think the soundtrack is worth getting. Like, it's a good soundtrack. Not something I personally listen to outside the game, but, you know, I can definitely say it's quality for what it was going for. And as far as the game itself, yeah, I think I can recommend this at the $10 range.
Mm-hmm.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I think that's probably worth that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I say it is.
Yeah. So yeah, all in all, really solid gaming here. Like it surprised me with how solid it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I mean I was expecting a okay romp, but yeah, the game played a lot better. Um, Ironically enough, by not sticking to 1980s conventions, like not all that shit was good. You know, like I am really glad that this game isn't fucking stiffer than cardboard, which is honestly what I was expecting. Um, anyway, so anything else on thy sword?
Some goblin guts, but that's about it. Sorry, I had to at least once.
Yes, yes. All right, so that'll about do it for thy sword here. Coming up after the break, we'll be reviewing Sakura no Mori Dreamers.